Hello, uh, welcome to online AECN 201. This is your first day seeing me online. It's a little bit awkward, and by a little bit I mean it's a lot awkward. I only can imagine how you guys are feeling. So today we really have two agenda items. So number one is overview of changes, what it means for you, how we're going to conduct class, how we're going to manage to get something good out of the next 6 weeks. It's a little bit different than what we thought we were going to have. And then number two, we're going to talk about the macroeconomy and specifically what COVID-19 is doing to the economy right now. We're going to treat it like an economic thing. We're not going to diminish the loss of life and the sickness and the issues that it's causing, but we're going to focus on what it's doing for this class. So both of these things are going to take 10 to 15 minutes each. You can't ask questions. You can't point out that I've said something wrong. We'll talk about how we're going to do those things and have some back and forth and have some good contact, mainly here at number one with an overview of changes. So the first thing to think about, because I know it's important for you guys, is your grade. And if you don't come to class, if you don't care, you're not going to get a good grade. But it's kind of stressful right now. And it's stressful because, you know, I lived through 9/11 and I remember it, but being in Iowa at the time, I was a long way away from New York City, and the war on terror is something that never really impacted my life. But going out into Lincoln, going out into any community and seeing no one out and about doing things, being concerned about contracting a sickness or an illness or passing it on to someone, and a lot of unknown, does cause some anxiety. So I don't want people to be too concerned about their grade. You know, we have to try, have to show some progress towards learning objectives, and there are ways that we can assess that, and we don't want to diminish what we've already done. So the changes that I have made, I would say proposed, but unless I can see a really good reason to do otherwise, this is what we're going to do. So you have your first half and the second half. In the first half, you had 2 exams. Now, the original syllabus said that I would drop your lowest of your first 3 exams, but since we didn't have 3, I dropped your lowest score. So I dropped your first, let's say that you had 40 out of 50 and 30 out of 50. This score went away, and you were left with a 40 out of 50. But you also did some Friday work, and that Friday work, I think we had 8 or 9 Friday works, and I took your top 6. So of those top 6, let's say that you had 30 out of 30. I simply added these together, putting 5/8 of the weight on your exams and 3/8 on your Friday group work to come up with your overall score. So this person would have 70 over 80. I should have picked an easier number. 7/8 is 87.5%. I got it. So this person has an 87.5 on the first half. Keep in mind, I still gave you your extra credit. Those things were buried in. The work that you did just prior to break, that was included as well. I don't think I forgot anything there, but if I did, I'm sure that Miranda or someone in the 3rd row up there will remind me. So feel free. If there's anything, just really don't be afraid to let me know. But I'm pretty sure that I got everything included. So you've got 87.5. The second half, I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do for points. I think we're going to have 20 points per week. Not entirely sure. I don't want to lock anything down. But I do want this 87.5 to stick. I want you to earn what you got on that first half. The second part, though, is just going to be a percentage as well, so we're not doing points any longer. And let's say that this person gets, let's go with that, 120 points, and they end up with 108 out of 120. which is 90%. Well, how do I find that person's grade overall? 90 plus 87.5 divided by 2, that's your grade, 88.75, I think. So there's a new grading scale. It's by percentage. We're putting half the weight on the grade that's established, half the weight that's coming up. Now, how are these 120 points going to come about? I think, but again, I'm not sure, that you'll have 2 10-point activities per week. The first activity will be open Tuesday through Friday. It'll be a quiz, it'll be a problem set, it will be something that gets you involved in class, that hopefully makes you read, hopefully gets you excited about, well, hopefully makes you look to these videos, gives you a reason to show up for class. You can do it over and over again. You can ask for help, you can ask me if it's right, if it's a quiz, you can take it over and over again. I want you to get those 10 points. The second 10 points will be more of an assessment. It'll be a quiz, it'll be open Friday during class time, and that's the only time that it will be open. If you get 8 out of 10, you get 8 out of 10. If you get 10 out of 10, you get 10 out of 10. That's the only part of the course that is truly synchronous. This might be a word that has come into your lexicon for the first time. Synchronous, I feel like there's an H in there somewhere, is juxtaposed by asynchronous. Synchronous means we meet together at the same time. That's what Zoom is. Asynchronous means I give you some input, you give something back, we don't have to do it at the same time. That doesn't mean there aren't deadlines, it just means we don't meet face-to-face or in real time together. There can be a time lag. I want most of this to be asynchronous. Even though you have dedicated Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8:45 to 9:50, that's when you used to live in Lincoln. You don't live in Lincoln anymore. So we're mostly going to be asynchronous, but we're going to have that one Friday quiz that will be synchronous. All right, we're not doing lockdown browsers. We're not doing weird stuff like that. I don't want to be Big Brother. So even that should be pretty low stress. Again, you've got 50% here, you've got 50% here. I want you to make forward progress on learning some of the principles of farm and ranch management. Already done that. You can go back through. We've made great gains, I think, in financial analysis, accounting. We've done a large part of budgeting. We've talked about economic principles and how those can be applied, and we're going to go further. And hopefully we're going to focus on big things. And you're going to leave and say, well, that was weird. Things were different, but we're still meeting objectives and getting something out of the course. All right. Now I know that this isn't the easiest thing to listen to. They don't have entry music. I was watching WrestleMania on TV the last couple of nights, and I really wish that I had about a year to put this together and all sorts of special effects. But this is going to be pretty low tech and not always the most grab you by the throat, engaging, awesome experience. It's just going to be me giving you information that we'd have in class, just in a little different format. So I'm going to give you 2 ways to get excited about listening to these lectures and some incentive and Zoom tomorrow as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is a scavenger hunt. And the scavenger hunt is going to be a pop culture scavenger hunt. So I'll give you an example. I could say, Goonga Galunga. That's what he says to me. I looked at the llama and I said, well, how about a little something for the effort? And the llama looks at me and says, there will be no monetary compensation, but on your deathbed, there will be total consciousness. So I got that going for me, which is nice, which is now the worst Carl Spackler impression you've ever heard. That, of course, is from the most quoted movie ever, Caddyshack. So there will be some pop culture reference in your lecture at some point, and the person who emails me correctly where it came from gets to decide what the next pop culture reference should be. So if you're a fan of Star Wars or TikTok. I don't know what TikTok is, so if you ask me to do something I don't know what it is, I'll look it up and try my best and put that in the next video. So I'm willing to humiliate myself if that's what you think is fun. On that note, after class, or during class, I guess, from 9 to 9:30, I'm thinking you're going to watch this thing. And then from 9:30 to 10:30, I'm going to be available to talk to. Or if you don't want to talk to me, you're going to be in a Zoom room with your classmates. I'll have a question for you. If I have forgotten to give you a question, someone will point that out, and I'll remember during Zoom, hey, I need to give you something to talk about. And then you're going to talk. And you're going to see each other, and it won't be as good as seeing each other in person, but it'll be better than sitting at home. I know that my 2 older kids are getting kind of tired of playing with each other. And it's kind of the same when you're 20 as well as when you're 8. It's nice to have some social interaction with people. So I hope this is one little way that you can do it, touch base with some of the people that you haven't seen for a couple of weeks. So, if more than 60% of you participate in Zoom, I will do something even more humiliating than just doing something stupid in a lecture. For this week, if more than 60% of the people show up, I will let my 6-year-old son, who I just cut his hair, cut my hair any way he wants, and I'll keep it for a week. Or I'll grow a mustache and keep it for as long as you like, or until you can't focus your attention somewhere else. I didn't even shave for the last couple of days to get that going. Or my whole life, I haven't been able to do a somersault. I can do one backwards, but I can't do one forwards. My head gets in the way. I'll try to do a somersault on a video. You can watch me maybe hurt myself. Or number 4 and number 5 are student choice. I'll put up a poll if 60% of you participate in Zoom and do one of these ridiculous things. And I'll do it every week. I really don't have any shame, so if it gets you guys excited about seeing each other on Zoom, then we'll do it. Okay, we're 12 minutes in. That means I have about 12 minutes to teach you something today. So, let's talk about COVID-19. And I don't want to talk about it again. It's kind of a terrible sickness from the sounds of things. I want to talk about what it's doing to the economy. So there's lots of unknown. There's some confusion about how it's spread. But in general, what's not confusing is don't leave your home. Or if you do leave your home, don't talk to people. Don't go out to eat. Don't go to bars. Don't go shopping. Pretty much don't spend money. All you're going to spend money on is food. That's it. Spend money on food. Pay for your rent. Do whatever you can. Now, what that also means, though, is jobs go away. And the way that macroeconomists model that is by using this model that looks an awful lot like just a plain market, except instead of it being just demand, it's aggregate demand. And instead of it being just supply, it's aggregate supply. And one step further, instead of this being the price of one thing, it's the price level. It's the price of everything. And this, my quantity, is real GDP. And in normal times, this gives us an equilibrium price level, and this gives us our equilibrium level of output. Now let's talk about that price level just for a bit longer, because then we're not going to talk about it much more. Aggregate demand is downward sloping. It's not exactly the same thing as demand, but even if you think that it is, it's really more or less okay. If prices are high for all things. You can think about an expensive store. You can think about an expensive mall. Maybe you've been to the Cherry Creek Mall in Denver. That's the expensive one I've been to. When I go to the Cherry Creek Mall to do my Christmas shopping, I come out with nothing. When I go to Baumgart's, though, and I do my Christmas shopping at Baumgart's, I come out with stuff for everybody because prices are reasonable. Well, that's what we see here when the price level is high, output or the quantity demanded is lower than when prices are low. Now, the same thing goes for supply. Firms are willing to supply more stuff the higher the prices. But these are short-run relationships. And think about why it has to be a short-run relationship and define it or think about one thing in your ag econ life and how the price really doesn't have anything to do with how much you can produce. How much corn can you produce? How many cattle can you feed? Well, that has to do with how much land you have, how much labor you have, how much entrepreneurial skill you have and know-how. It has nothing to do with what the price is. But in the short run, it does. Because in the short run, something is fixed. Remember that? That's the definition of the short run. In the short run, what's fixed is the wage rate. Let's say that you're paying laborers on your farm and ranch, and prices of cattle are going up, prices of corn are going up. What do? You hire more, you produce more, you use more resources, you produce as much as you can. But that doesn't hold forever because when you have to start paying more for inputs, well, the price is higher, but costs are higher too. Once those things even out, the short-run relationship doesn't hold anymore, and the relationship that we then worry about is long-run aggregate supply. And long-run aggregate supply is vertical, meaning, hey, how much you can produce, this real GDP number, this pile of stuff of everything that we produce, has nothing to do with the price level because prices and wages are offset. Hey, you make $100 million a year. Well, that's great. A candy bar costs $1,000. Big deal. Prices are high, wages are high. Prices are low, wages are low. My dad always talks about how he made $2,000 at his first job. Well, that's great, Dad. Your first new car was $1,600 or something like that. Really, really cheap. So in the long run, that's more like potential. How much can we produce in a normal time period when we have normal unemployment, just the kind of unemployment that's not necessarily bad, just people moving jobs and maybe their job isn't really relevant anymore, but no one's losing their job because of something crazy is happening. So here we are in a situation that is pretty normal. Real GDP or long-run aggregate supply, this potential GDP isn't a maximum, it's just kind of this normal amount. And the normal amount continues to improve, but it's not some maximum, it's not some aspirational goal, okay? So here we are, we have some unemployment, we have normal output, we have normal prices. Sure, the economy is dynamic, but things are good. There's nothing to really look at. We could nitpick some things, but why do that? But then something like coronavirus happens. Long-run aggregate supply really doesn't change. You could argue maybe a little bit we're going to lose some of the workforce or there's going to be some long-run changes, but there's a shock. There's something happened that just kind of pounds on the economy right away. It's not long-run aggregate supply because that's really just more of a benchmark. That's really just more of an idea. So since it's an idea, I'm going to de-emphasize it just a little bit and put just some dots in. Short-run aggregate supply really doesn't change. Aggregate demand does. It falls off a cliff. And what happens is our output is far lower than what our potential is. And the way that we know that's happening is by unemployment. There's millions of people who are now unemployed. So what are we going to do? Here we are in this economy, we can't go out, we're not allowed to, or at the very least, we're really not supposed to. Our heads have fallen off. I mean, it's bad. What are we going to do to get output back to where it needs to be? And that's where the stimulus comes in. So the way that the stimulus works is if you were a single person and you make less than $75,000 a year, you get $1,200. If you're a married couple and the household makes less than $150,000 a year, you each get $1,200 or $2,400, and you get $500 for each one of the little consumption units that's in your house. So if you're me and you have one kid on purpose and 3 oops, you get $4,400. What's that going to do? Well, the idea is that it's going to backfill some of the demand that was lost because of people not going out any longer. So that's my question to you, is this: what's going to happen going forward? Is this stimulus going to be enough? What's going to happen? What assumptions are being made to think that this $2 trillion of stimulus is going to help? I want you to think about the money. Think about where you think it should go to. Should I get the money? Should unemployment benefits be made even more broad than they are right now? This is, it's kind of a big deal. And this is the first time probably in your life where there's been some widespread hardship. And it's okay to talk about it right now. So that's what I want you to talk about in Zoom, in your small groups. I want you to ask me any questions that you like. You can email me if you'd rather talk to me. We can Zoom. You can call me. I do have a phone. But let's make this class as best as we can, and hopefully you achieve the same objectives if we would have been seeing face-to-face. So, yeah, I'm sorry this is where we are, but we're going to make the best out of it. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow live.